All right, so we're working on the post-test packet. Someone wants to hit the lights, that would be great, the front light. If I have my... All right. So I had some warm-up problems, but we don't have a lot of extra time according to Ms. Abruzzo. I'm just gonna do maybe this number 3 right here as a warm-up. Okay, you don't have this problem, but this says solve for all values between 0 and 2 pi. So I would move the sine squared over to the other side by adding it so that it was positive. It has a plus 2 sine theta over there. And if I subtracted this 3, it would also have a plus 1. Do you remember factoring when there's 3 terms? You have to kind of pretend this is like this, right? So then it would factor u plus 1, and set those equal to 0. You'd get u equals -1. But what was u? Sine of theta. So where is the sine of theta -1? By the way, it's not in more than one place. Okay? Yes. Yesterday, some of you said sine was, I don't remember if it was positive or -1, but you answered in 2 different places and it's not. All right. We are going to start with numbers 15 and 16. Everybody good? What you are looking for here, it says using appropriate trig identities, write a simplified equivalent expression using only sine or cosine. So if I go to this slide, the first one was this, I believe. Okay. Everybody know where this is on a reference sheet? These should be easy questions, so please get these right. It says on the sheet 2 sine theta cosine theta is equal to the sine of 2 theta. So what is theta in our question here? The theta is really 6x. Everybody good? So you're going to put that 6x in here, so you will have the sine of 2 times 6x, or the sine of 12x. Kind of remember these? They're pretty easy. Once you got the hang of them, yes.
Okay. What happened?
We are trying to simplify an expression. The expression we were given was this. So it simplifies down to just this.
Oh, okay.
So it said to simplify it down, and it should be an expression, not an equation, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're looking for one on the sheet that says 2 cosine squared, and it uses theta. I'm going to use a here just so it's a little less confusing. Does anybody see one that says 2 cosine squared minus 1? It's another one of the double angles, but it's for cosine. So this would be cosine of 2a. So in place of a or theta, what are we going to use? 3 theta. So it would be the cosine of 3 thetas, or the cosine of 6 theta. And you can put parentheses or not. It isn't going to matter to me. Questions? So everybody's going to get those 2 right? All right, then we move on to this. And because it's long and complicated, it's probably worth several points, okay? Remember, we're on points, not standards. So it says expand using the appropriate identity, and it says right up here to use sum and difference trig identities. So it's cosine with a minus. So can anybody quote the cosine with a minus for me? It's here. It says cosine, cosine plus sine, sine. Everybody good? cosine. Can I go right to the letters that are here? Is everybody okay with that, or do you need me to write it out with the A's and B's? This would be A and this would be B. So it's cosine of A times cosine of B, right? And then it was plus sine of A, sine of B. Yes. Okay, do we need to use negative? Anybody have an answer to that? Right here, it comes with the minus, and it doesn't say, just says use B. Everybody good? All right, this is where people messed up on this. I don't know if you remember, but a whole bunch of you got this wrong the first time, because when you went to evaluate, you still wrote down the word cosine. I don't want cosine 3 pi over 2 or cosine 0, right? 3 pi over 2, it would be 0. You just replace this whole value with a 0. So it says cosine of x times 0 plus sine of x. What is the sine at 3 pi over 2, guys? -1. So then this is all 0. Cosine times 0 is 0. And this is -1 times the sine of x, or negative sine of x. But please listen when I say this. Carefully choose all the expressions below that are equivalent to this. So we got this answer, which is choice 2 here. Everybody good? But if you look at the reference sheet, is there something that's equivalent to that? Everybody see that? A negative sine of x is also equal to what? Of negative x, which is choice 5 over here. So it's quite likely that there's more than one choice, okay? Just make sure you look at those odd relations. Where was that? Here. Even and odd relations, okay? We good? So that's your hint on those. All right. These questions, is this the next one? I didn't skip any, did I? Okay. I'm going to go kind of quick. Oh my goodness. Those of you who still are having trouble with Pythagorean theorem make me cry. But if we do -24 squared, or just 24 squared plus 7 squared, and we try to get the hypotenuse squared, we get 25. So this side is 25. By the way, I seem to recall some of you had trouble with the fact that this arrow looked like it was pointing at this angle or something. This is alpha all the way around. It's just the rotation. You still use this reference angle down here, okay? So don't get confused and use a different angle. And then I don't know what happened to some of you. Most of you had trouble with tangent, not sine and cosine, but sine would be 7 over 25, and cosine would be -24 over 25. All right, over here, we have x squared plus 5 squared equals 13 squared. If we subtract, we get 144, so this is 12. Do I need a negative on it?
No.
No, it's going to the right, okay? This one was negative, though. All right, so sine, anybody?
Oh, that would be 5 over. Oh, wait a minute. 5 over 5 over 14.
Yeah, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, this says clearly, write the trig identity for this. Okay, it does not say to put anything else in. You get a point for copying the right identity. What was it? Sine A minus B? Is that what it was? Sine.
The value of sine.
So it's sine cosine minus cosine sine. Okay. Sine cosine minus cosine sine. And it said just to copy it. So right now it's alpha, beta, and if you put A's and B's, I don't care. Now we're supposed to substitute values in. And when you substitute values in, you do not write the word sine or cosine. So the sine of alpha is simply 7/25. Okay, putting that in here. The cosine of beta is 12/13. Somebody warn me if I do one of these wrong. Minus the cosine of alpha, which is negative 24/25. Sine of beta, which is 5/13. Hint, guys, you shouldn't use any of those values more than once. All right. Now you'd use your calculator. This would be 84 over 25 times 13, guys. 325, 4. Someone help me. 25 times 13.
325.
Is that what anybody got? If you'd even type the whole thing in, I think it's 204 over 325. Is that right? Anybody not getting that? I can help if somebody's not getting it. Yes, the plus is from the minus and the negative. Yeah, I was just trying to do it in my head, but you could type it exactly like that with parentheses and everything and it would work. But when it says exact value, guys, it wants a fraction because I'm pretty sure that is not an exact decimal. It's going to be a big mess. Any questions on that one? Again, multiple points. You good, Kat? Or is that not working? You okay? Okay, let me know if you need help. Yes. I thought maybe Friday. It's just a work day, and then I'll have both parts graded and you can see them then. Again, you could just think of this as an algebra problem. If you called this 2u squared minus u minus 1, how would that factor? Be careful.
You have to take out.
Oh my goodness. Please don't take out a u, because you can't take a u out of 1.
That is true.
So it would be 2u and 1u to get 2u squared. And the way to get a 1 is a 1 and a 1. We need a plus and a minus or a minus and a plus. Okay. If we do that, then we get a minus 1 for this middle term and a plus 2. Minus 1u plus 2u would not give you a negative 1u in the middle. So we're going to back up and we're going to make this one minus here and plus here. It'll be a minus 2u and a plus 1u. Everybody good? If we set this equal to 0, we get u equals negative 1/2 or u equals 1. Are we done? Now we have to set, what was u again? Sine of x. Where's the sine of x? Negative 1/2 and the sine of x 1. Now, did anybody read the directions? Which I kindly put down next to the blank again.
Yes.
Only 0 to 2 pi. Okay? Right. 2 pi n doesn't need to be anywhere. How many places does the sine equal negative 1/2 or positive 1? I think there's 3 solutions. Let's see. The sine is negative. The sine is positive 1 at pi over 2. Yes. The sine is negative 1/2 would be at 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Is that right? I'm pretty sure I put a unit circle here. It's sine. So be real careful you're looking at the right values. Because I hate for you to do all the work and then pick cosine instead of sine. All right, number 20. Is that where we are, guys? Simplify the following expressions, justifying all steps by showing work and identifying any Pythagorean identities used. Okay. If you have to rearrange a Pythagorean identity, you should write that down as well, but don't we have one that just says 1 plus cotangent squared equals something? 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared, right? Right there. You might have to rearrange one on the... So there's the Pythagorean identity I'm using, and I'm going to substitute it in here. Okay, sine squared, I can leave sine squared. Cosine squared, I can leave cosine squared. What might I want to change secant to? 1 over, doesn't it say secant right there?
Yeah, my bad.
So that's 1 over cosine. Now, before I start canceling stuff, you could start canceling there, but this one is actually 1 over sine squared. But again, you're supposed to be showing your justifications. Plain old sine squared would be over 1. Plain old cosine squared, you could write over 1. And this one was 1 over cosine. Be real careful because that's a common mistake. Don't lose or add squareds, right? If it comes with squareds, keep them. If it doesn't, what if it had a tangent squared and you want to change it to sines and cosines? Okay, but if it was a tangent squared, yes, then it would be sine squared over cosine squared, okay? And those, they're right here, guys. Tangent is sine over cosine, okay? Anyway, not going to talk more about yesterday's, but there were some silly mistakes made. All right, sine squared, divide out. Cosine squared, cosine will divide out one of those. So what are we left with?
1.
Yep, I have 1 and a cosine and a 1 on the top. That's just cosine, right? And on the bottom, I just have 1. Anybody lost? Sine squared canceled out both of those sine squareds. We good? All right. Then we switch, I think, to the conics. Okay. We have all these on the reference sheet. Everything you could possibly need to know. Okay. This one says use algebraic methods to rewrite the equation of this conic in standard. That's supposed to say form. And identify the type of conic. All of these say standard form at the top. Do you see, guys? So you don't get confused what that means. It means the form that's on the reference sheet. All right, anybody know what shape this one is going to be just by looking at it? It only has an x squared, right? It doesn't have a y squared. So it can't be a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola because they all have squareds on both. So it is going to be a parabola. Now, when it has an x squared but not a y squared, we go to the parabola ones. X is squared but not y squared. This is what we have. X minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. We don't have to do too much to this one. Anybody know what we need to do? Do I really need to complete the square? Is my question.
No.
No, because the x squared has nothing else that goes with it. So I could just leave the x squared on this side and move the negative 2y and a 10 to the other side. They would both be negatives if I moved them. Does that look like this form now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm supposed to have y minus k in here, so what do I need to take out?
Negative.
A negative 2. What will be left? Yes. So that's the form, and you could put in a 0 if you wanted. You don't need to for the x. But some equivalent form that lines up with this. So you could either put this one or this one, and it makes it a parabola. Okay, special gift from Miss Hofbauer. The one on the quiz tomorrow might look more like this one. X squared minus 25y squared minus 100 equals 0. Anybody know what we could do with that? We don't have to complete the square because there's no x or y term. X squared minus 25y squared equals. Then what do they have to equal, guys?
Oh, one.
All of them have to equal 1 except for the parabola. So we'd have x squared over 100. 25 goes into 100 4 times. What is that? Because it has a minus. Merry Christmas. It might be more like that tomorrow, okay? But really does not require completing the square. Okay, there is some completing the square, but not on that question. All right, what is this conic? It has a plus in the middle, so in its ellipse. The center is h. Be careful, this is x minus h, y minus k. How do you get an A and B on an ellipse? How do you decide which is A and B? A is under the larger one, yes. A squared is the larger term. Okay, which way am I going here? So A squared is 16 and B squared is 4. So the center is HK. Anybody? You have to plot it. It's worth points. 3, -2. Then what does this 4 mean? It's underneath the X, so it means in the X or sideways direction, I go how many? 2 each way. Okay, underneath the Y term was a 16, so in the Y or up and down, I go how many?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now it says find the vertices. What is the definition for vertices when you have a ellipse that's longer up and down? Right. So that should be 3, -2 plus or minus 4. So that would be 3. -2 plus 4 would be +2. And then 3, -2 minus 4 would be -6. If you want to list the covertices, you can, but as long as it just says vertices, you only have to list those 2. And it should check over 3 and up 2, and over 3 and down 6. And they should be the ones that went further out, right? If you accidentally do the wrong ones, you should be able to double check when you look at your picture. All right, for foci, we need C, and C is not the same definition for an ellipse and a hyperbola, so please use your reference sheet carefully. When you have an ellipse, C is a squared minus b squared. So a squared minus b squared square rooted equals C. A squared is 16, b squared is 4 because they're already squared up here. So I get square root of 12 or 2 square roots of 3. I don't really care if you leave it square root of 12. I'm not going to be picky on that here. And the definition for foci, do we add it to the x or to the y? Again, it's going up and down, so it's this one, h comma k plus or minus c. So it would be 3 comma -2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3. Can you simplify that? Like -2 plus 2. Can you write 0 square roots of 3? No, these are multiplied together, so please don't do anything crazy. If you wanted to change it to a decimal to make sure it was inside of here, you could. Square root of 12 is 3 point something. So one of them would be a little bit up here and one would be down here on the axis, okay? Any questions on that ellipse problem? Don't assume that the one tomorrow is up and down just because the review was, okay? You got to see what it says. All right, hyperbola. This is writing an equation. When you have vertices given, okay, the formula for vertices for a hyperbola is h comma k plus or minus a, or h plus or minus a comma k. How can we find the center? You know what I would do? This is what I would do. I would go 3, 0, and negative 3, 0. If those are the vertices, which way does this thing open?
Side to side.
Yes. Because remember the vertices, it actually goes through the vertices. I don't know how big the box is in here. Actually, I could figure that out, but it opens through the vertices. Okay. So here you can put left, right that it opens. I think they call that horizontally, but I really don't care. Just put left, right. How do you find the center? Center equals midpoint of vertices. Does this sound familiar? Yes. If you add those together, you shouldn't have too much trouble here. But if you add, you get 0 over 0 and 0. So it's just at 0, 0. Everybody okay? That's the center? All right. Now, if it opens left, right, and the center is 0, 0, the reference sheet here, okay, opens left, right is this guy. What does it say for the asymptotes down here? The slope is b over a. We're almost done already. That means this is b and this is a. So a is what? And b is, okay, and we go to write the equation. It was x minus h squared, and this would be change over a squared. Someone tell me if I'm copying this right. Y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Is that the right formula, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's here. A squared is always under the positive term, and because it opens left, right, it's got the x's in front. So what would this equation look like? Well, x minus 0, or just x squared, over what's a squared? Don't put 3, it's 9. Minus y minus 0 squared, and you could write it that way, I wouldn't care. Or just y squared, over b squared would be 25 equals 1. Pretty easy one to write the equation of. All right, there is a thinking kind of question about parabolas. It says compare the characteristics of these two parabolas given a graph of one and the equation of the other. Okay, this parabola has a vertex at negative 4, 3. Everybody get that? Don't listen to me. What should that be, guys? Over 3, down 4. We all know Hofbauer has trouble with that. Okay. Now, somewhere on this is a focus. Somewhere on this line is a focus. I don't know where it is, but the focus point would also be at 3 comma something, right? And there's a way we could figure it out, but it's long and time consuming. For now, let's just think. Okay, this one, it goes y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. Everybody find it? I just flip-flopped the sides to match what they had. So what can you tell me? H is 1, K is, so the center, or the focus, I'm sorry, the vertex is at 1, negative 3. All right, and 4p is 1/8. Yes. So if we do 1/4 of each side, we'd get P equals 1 over 32. So if I were to graph this, which way would it open? I'm going to even graph it on the same one. It'll help us in a minute here. The vertex is at 1, -3 right here, and it opens what? The y is squared, so it opens up and down, and it had a positive, so it opens up. No, just kidding. The y is squared, so it opens side to side, and it's positive, so it's going to open to the right, okay? And the focus is going to be in here somewhere. Okay, which parabola has a vertex with a greater y value? In other words, it's up higher. Which vertex is up higher? Parabola B. On this one, the y value was -4, -3, which is bigger is -3, right? Because it's more positive. Okay, explain which parabola has a focus with a greater x value. X is left or right? So which one is going to be further to the right?
Okay.
1/30, hang on. 1/32 is really tiny, right? If you actually wanted to find the focal point of this, anybody have the formula? Focus is h plus p comma k. So 1 plus 1 over 32 comma -3 is the focus of that one. It's just barely inside of there. So which one is clearly going to be further to the right? The focus point of A, the green one, right? Further to the right. Has a greater x value. So you could just say it's further to the right, but you could say, let's see, B's focus is at 1 and 1/32, -3. A's focus is at 3 comma something. I don't know what, but I really don't care because that means A has a greater x. You don't have to be super picky, but again, this is probably a 3-point question at least, okay? So at least get some of the points. And I think it's pretty clear. I think they might be even further apart on the quiz than these were. Everybody okay? All right. It says use algebraic methods to find the center and radius of this circle. The one that's on your sheet, your review, requires a decimal. Can we just do one without a decimal because the one on the SLO doesn't have a decimal? Is that all right with everybody? So we're going to start with x squared plus y squared minus 12x plus 10y minus 1 equals 0. I don't know that's going to come out nice, but at least it's not going to have a decimal in the completing the square part. Okay, anybody know what shape this is? It says right here, it's a circle. So lucky for us, well, we need to combine the x's, move them next to each other, and then sort out the y's. The good news is that we don't have to factor anything out of the x's or y's. So when we move this, add this 1 to the other side, it'll be a +1, and then we're going to have a couple blanks. All right, guys, what's the rule? Some of you still have trouble completing the square. Yes. And it is important that it's minus. Okay, it's half of -12, so it's -6. When you square that, you're adding 36 to both sides. Half of plus 10y would be plus 5. Square that, and you're adding 25 to both sides. 62. Okay, not a nice number, but It's okay. Might not be nice on the quiz, might be nice, I can't remember. So this whole equation would go on that line. And the center would be at 6, -5 with a radius of square root of 62. And that doesn't simplify, and that's fine, just leave it. If it comes out a perfect square, you should simplify it, but otherwise I'm not worried. Questions? That's definitely an Algebra 2 question, right? Those last year was circles at least. All right, identify the kind of conic, find A, B, and the eccentricity. The formula for eccentricity is on the reference sheet somewhere. Yes, it's E equals C over A. What are we saying this one is, guys? Anybody know what this one is? Has a minus in here, so that makes it a hyperbola. Okay, the formula for hyperbola to find C is down here, A squared plus B squared. Not the same for an ellipse. B equals the square root of A squared plus B squared. All right, what's A and B though? This is important. Is A the bigger one?
No.
This is A squared and this is B squared, okay? And again, you could check that if you look at the reference sheet here. When the X is first, the A squared. When the Y is first, the A squared is under that one. All right, so A is what, guys? 2, B is 6. If we put the A squared and B squared in here, C is square root of 40. This does say exact. We did them as decimals in class, but this would be 4 times 10 or 2 square roots of 10. And then how do you do eccentricity again?
Right.
E equals C, which is 2 square roots of 10, over A, which is 2. So what's going to happen?
Okay.
Yeah, so we just have square root of 10, which if you typed in your calculator is 3 point something. Does that match with the definition of eccentricity, which said for a hyperbola it should be greater than 1? Okay. If it happened to be an ellipse on the quiz, make sure it's between 0 and 1. That's your double check. If you use the wrong C formula, you get the wrong value. Any questions there? All right, then the part of the quiz I'm probably, or the summative I'm probably most worried about is the conic stuff, or the sequences stuff, because I feel like we haven't ever quizzed on this yet, so some of you haven't done any homework or review. All of the formulas will be on the sheet. Are these explicit or recursive? This is an explicit formula. Everybody good? Okay, and this is an explicit formula. All right, it says write the explicit and recursive formula for the sequence shown. First of all, you have to decide, are they adding or multiplying?
Right.
Okay, so it goes down 50, goes down 50, goes down 50. So what does that tell you?
The X value.
Okay, not what I was asking. Is it arithmetic or geometric? Okay, it is arithmetic with a common difference of -50. So then explicit means you go here and you write this formula. A sub n equals A sub 1. What are we going to put in for that? And then we have always written it the D next, so our D is -50, and then n minus 1. If you wrote it like the book did, it would be plus n minus 1 times -50. You could simplify, distribute and simplify, but you don't have to. It would be 270 minus 50n, but you absolutely don't have to. I will be fine if you leave it in that form. Okay, does anybody remember recursive? It's not on the sheet. You have to tell me the first term, and then it's the previous term, and then it's either times the ratio or plus the difference. So what's the first term? And you can put that statement at the front or the back. And every term after that is the previous term, what? Minus 50. So how are you going to keep those straight? Which one is going to be on the reference sheet? Explicit, right? Recursive is based on a sub n minus 1, and it has two parts. You got to give me both parts. Okay, 28. Find the fifth term in this sequence. Please do this as efficiently as possible, which would just be to do what? Yes, put in n equals 5. So 4 parenthesis negative 2 to the 5 minus 1. Yes, so it's 4 times negative 2 to the 4th. Just use your calculator. Negative 2 to the 4th, I think, is 16 times 4 is 64. Anybody need me to show it on the calculator? I would have just typed exactly this. Any questions? All right, guys, I cannot stress enough, you cannot guess. The easiest way to determine if this is arithmetic or geometric is to put numbers in. What if I put a 1 in? What will I get? 5, yes? What if I put a 2 in? 6 plus 2 is?
8.
3 times 3 plus 2? 3 times 4 plus 2? Did I do something wrong? 12 plus 2 is 14. Yep. And then 3 times 5 plus 2 be 15 plus 2 is 17. You don't have to do all of them, but if you do enough, you should see that it's what? So it is arithmetic or geometric? Common difference of 3. The sum is what you get when you add them all up, 31, or you could use the summation thing on your calculator. 13, 30, 40, 55, anybody? All right, I'm going to do the last one. You can stick around for 10 seconds or you can watch the video. Oh, there's 2? Okay. What is the 7th term? Well, it says it's arithmetic, so you have the first term minus 1.5, 7 minus 1 or 6 times. So I don't know if anybody's got the calculator still, but that's how you would do that one. This is the one I'm most worried about because it has multiple parts. This says compare the ratios. Here you are multiplying by 5/4 over and over. Here you are multiplying by 2. This would be your R over and over. This is the one where you have to put a missing term in. So you would say 3 was multiplied by R squared twice and became 18.75. If you divide, you get R squared equals 6.25. You square root that. You get 2.5. So in this particular example, they are already in order because 1.25 is the smallest, then 2, and then 2.5. So you would say ABC. But again, this is finding a missing term to find R. Going. Did you happen to type this one in? Anybody? What did you get here? No? 17. 6.5 is 9. I think it's 8, but I could be wrong. Just find the seventh term, right? It didn't want to sum. All right, did you both get everything you wanted down? Okay. This was actually practice that we did not have time for. Okay. Or you have done, the more you can retake, but
Yeah.